Alrighty, good evening. My name is Kim Shepherdson Watson, and I am the chair of the Board of Education, and I would like to call the Groton Board of Education regular meeting to order. It is September 26th, and by my clock, we are at 6 o'clock. And before I ask for the Pledge of Allegiance, I am actually just going to ask us to remember Lee White. In August of 2015, a woman who was a force, a woman who was dedicated to her adopted town. And this was not her first stint on a Board of Education. She was a resident in Massachusetts, and she also was a Board of Ed member there. And she served on the Board of Education for 6 years, ending her term in November of 2021. She then went on to the RTM, which is the representative town meeting body, and was serving there. Unfortunately, she passed away this past weekend. And in deference to her, I just am just going to ask that we have a moment of silence to remember Lee White, who, talking about a fierce advocate for children, she was someone who I looked up to and admired for. So if we could just do that, please. I thank you, everyone, for doing that. The next order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Kelleher, would you be willing to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is such an exciting moment for the Board of Ed. And I am looking over to Andrea Ackerman, who is a board member, but also a liaison for the Martin Luther King and a board member for Martin Luther King. And I know that you have been working with all the recipients. But today, and unfortunately, they're not right on camera at the present moment, we have our scholarship recipients. And so, Andrea, I'm just going to lead that to you or give that to you and do what you may.
I'm so pleased that I have invited the Martin Luther King Scholars from Fitch High School today. And they're going to be introducing each other because part of the charge of being a Martin Luther King Scholar is learning those skills that you have to have as you enter society. And a good handshake is the first one, and introductions are the second on the list. So I'm going to turn this over to actually, he's our student, actually our student liaison on Martin Luther King group, because he's the one that if you get an email from Isaiah, you really are getting it from me. So Isaiah, we'll do it all right.
I present Kyra Robinson, daughter of Frank and Dana Robinson.
Bring him up. We would love for you to, you're going to be very small on the screen,
Even better
but
there.
at least.
I think maybe a lot closer. We can still see them and folks can see even more of them.
Right, Dean, that's why I love you so much.
So,
yeah, if you could do that.
right
that
to
would
the
be
front.
great. Thank you. Thank you.
Front row.
Longer up and moving.
Front and center.
So they're up.
But you have to be able to see yourself in the mirror. In the screen.
Yeah, we can see. We don't.
I first met Kyra in freshman year during our honors board history class with Mr. Higgins. And I remember always being annoyed during that class because whenever Mr. Higgins would ask a question, Kyra would always answer the question before I could. And Kyra is a member of the National Honor Society. She is president of the Black Student Union. She belongs to the Aquarium, and she's a peer mediator at Fitch High School. Pyro plans to attend UConn to pursue her dream of becoming a psychiatrist. And I think I speak for everyone here when I say Pyro, and I really study something called scholar.
May I present Rihanna Zutat, daughter of Rich and Marish Zutat. I have known Rihanna since the 4th grade, and she has always been the kindest, most passionate and creative person I know. Throughout her high school career, she has maintained high honors. She's president of Drama Club and treasurer of Key Club. She intends on attending MIT for astronautical engineering. Tonight, please join me in congratulating Rihanna for being selected as this year's MLK Scholar.
May I present Aisha Hashimi, daughter of Rona Habibi and Nadir Hashimi. I've known Aisha since 6th grade, and she's always been the type of person to help anyone and everyone, whether that's reading over essays, carrying around chewing gum, or making us laugh on our bad days. This translates to her time outside of school too, where she volunteers to help Afghan refugees. She has held high honors since 6th grade and is part of the National Honor Society. She intends to study dermatology at Yale following her high school career. Please join me in congratulating Aisha for receiving the Dr. King Scholarship.
May I present Isaiah Anderson, son of Jason and Gloria Mar Anderson. I have known Isaiah since 3rd grade. He has been my only competition in math. Isaiah is a very friendly and responsible student. He is in the National Honor Society and class president since freshman year. He has helped bring teamwork to the baseball teams at Fitch High School, providing people a great support group. Isaiah plans to attend Georgetown University to study in political science. May we all congratulate Isaiah for being Martin Luther King Scholar.
I don't know if the board has any questions.
You don't have to be front and center anymore. You guys can come back. You guys did an amazing, amazing job to stand that close to a screen and to be so composed. And if you are representing what our youth look like today, we are in good hands. We are in really good hands. And thank you. And thank you for the mom and dad that were able to attend and for members of our Fitch family and staff. So thank you. But board members, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a comment. Thank you for everything that you've done for this community. You know, working so hard and getting a scholarship is great for you, but it also reflects how hard you're working for this community and making us look so great. You guys are phenomenal, and I'm so proud. And thank you for everything.
And there's still tickets if you want to come, board members. It's one of the best events at the Marriott, is the Martin Luther King Scholarship Dinner.
I'm going to talk about that. I think Isaiah, you have to say. And you certainly can say if you like.
Or you can get back to your homework or whatever else you have.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, wonderful.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Excuse me, women. Right. All right. Wow. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. Andrea, thank you. So the next agenda item is comments from citizens. This is the portion of the agenda where the board welcomes comments from citizens, and each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less. And citizens should, if possible, submit written comments, and presentations should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. And board members will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and cannot respond during the comments and citizen portion of the board meeting. And citizens should state their names and addresses for the record. Miss Joan, do we have anyone that has signed up through chat or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is there anyone in the room? All right. So that's going to push us down to the student representative report. I'm excited that our first regular board meeting of the school year, we have our 2 student reps. And that makes me very happy. And so I think the 2 of you guys have a plan. And what I'm going to ask is that you just state your name, Isaiah and Kate. But just to kind of state your names would be very helpful as the board in total kind of get used to you and get to know you. So.
Hi, I am Isaiah Anderson. And for me, it is a very exciting time to be a District Falcon right now. We are in the middle of planning our homecoming dance, what the senior class is taking care of. And along with that comes Spirit Week leading up to homecoming and pep rally on the Friday before. And Spirit Week is given to the senior class council. However, pep rally is planned by the Student Athletic Advisory Committee, which I am also a part of.
For me, it is also a very, I'm Katie Sabashi, and for me, it is also a very exciting time to be a Fitch Falcon, especially with someone who's been very involved and has always had an ear for music and things. It's been very exciting to hear that Drama Club is finally really starting up again, and they're looking into doing a musical this year, which is so very exciting. Musicals have always been something very close to my heart, so it's been very exciting to hear chatter about that and see all of my friends getting excited for that. As well as what Isaiah said about Spirit Week, we did pick some very, very fun, different Spirit Week, I guess like dress up days. We have had some debate on doing Decades Day from one of our friends in student council, but I think it's going to raise a lot of school spirit, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody. So we're excited to do that.
Yay. Rita, do you have a question? You are muted.
I know. Hi, is it Katie?
Yes, that's me.
Yes, hi, Katie. I wanted to know what you meant about the dress-up day and an issue possibly with the student council. I mean, with the town council. Or did you say student council?
I think she meant student council. I think that there's a debate about the decades. which-
Yes.
Oh, the
So
decade.
Isaiah
Okay.
and I have a friend in student council who is the only student to dress up in our grade for Decades Day last year, and we did it for Spirit Week. So he has not exactly loved this idea the most, but I think we can all get him on board to do it.
Right. I
So
mean, Katie,
that's our goal.
yeah.
Yes,
You're a junior at Fitch High School?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior. And Isaiah, you're,
A senior as well.
yeah, so we have 2 seniors. Usually we have a junior and a senior. So
We
2
have 2 juniors waiting in the wings to learn this year, and then they'll
Oh.
be able to come forward.
That's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
welcome and thank you so much for volunteering your time to come to the board meetings.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
Thank you.
Any other question from the board? Dean?
You want an interesting decade, try the 1930s. Nobody ever does that. They do
No,
the
they're boring.
20s, they do the 50s. Nobody ever does the 30s. I don't know why.
We'll have to bring that one up with Luca. See what he says.
The clothes are fabulous from the fabulous.
Uncomfortable, but maybe fabulous for me.
Sleep.
Not that I was around for the 1930s. Let me just be clear about that. All right.
Suggestion.
No, I'm not suggesting about that. No
You
one.
may feel like it sometimes.
Yes, on a daily basis. All right. If there are no further questions for our student reps, they did state earlier that they were not going to be able to stay for the full meeting. So at this point, we'll dismiss you guys. And it was good to see
Nice
you.
meeting you. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you. And as always, it's a pleasure, my friend. It's a pleasure. All right. And
Thank
thank you.
Thank you. both.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you.
You have to be so proud.
We're just waiting 2 seconds for a transition, and then we are going to be moving into The student, yeah, it's all about students. Actually, it's the superintendent report, and I believe you are going to be giving us lots of good information.
We are going to be giving you a lot of data. Hello, everyone. I actually have, we added a slide that might help orient us to with the state of Connecticut. It's on the slideshow, and I'm passing it out as well. These are the results from 2021, 2022 from last year. Smarter Balanced Assessment results, or SBAC, as you've heard us say. And SBAC, Smarter Balance, is really an assessment of the Common Core state standards, which Connecticut has adopted as the Connecticut Core Standards. A lot of you remember days when we used to have CMT and CAP. Well, those are long gone. It's been a decade that we've been implementing the Smarter Balance. And we have a summative in math assessment and a summative in English language arts. You'll notice that I went back to our tradition. The board has always viewed these color-coded. Mathematics is in the green, think money. And ELA is in the blue, think book. Blue book, green math. So when you see them, we're hoping that it'll also help you see when we're going back and forth between ELA and mathematics and the data. And we're going to be showing you some trend data before COVID. And then right when COVID hit in 2020, we couldn't give an assessment. Everybody was home, quarantining. We didn't know what would be the next step. We thought we were going out for a few weeks, and it became much longer than that. So we'll move forward on Smarter Balance.
So I am just making sure that we're all on the same page. So there has been a request, and we are, and it's going to be honored to bring in principals and teachers to kind of go over this. But my understanding is that you just recently have gotten this, and tonight is going to be the overall picture. And then we are going to have teachers and principals kind of coming in and talking about what it means for their individual building and what are the action plans around that. So I don't want you to feel that this is the only time that we're going to be seeing this data. We're going to be seeing this in sort of the global. So if you can think about, we're kind of going global to kind of going into the details.
We're going to start with the district view, and then when the principals are here, they'll be able to speak to their building.
Yes.
And there is a lot of data. We get an annual report card from the state, and there is data that is released at different times. I've showcased a little bit of the data as it came to view in the Alliance Tracker. But now we really want to give you more data. We're choosing to do SBAC, which is grades 3 through 8 in ELA and math first as a district. But then we're going to disaggregate the data. We've actually disaggregated a little bit for you, but by school, and the principals will be coming to you with their improvement plans and their action plans around the data.
And we're going to start, and we have our friend and yours, Tom Lonsdale, who's joining us virtually at home, and he'll walk us through some of the data too. We wanted to start just by sort of explaining some of the metrics that you're going to see. Tonight, we're really going to focus on the performance index. I'm not sure if you can read all of that, but it basically says it's all tests across all grade levels, and they're converted to a common scale. We're not going to bore you with the mathematical equation that is involved in that. We could go that into more detail at another time if you'd like.
Can you bring your faces down below?
I can't do that. Because I just did it on my screen,
Okay.
and I think Mark could do it there.
Mark, can you do
Or
that?
whoever's, I don't know if it's Caitlin.
No, it's me.
Sorry, what do you need?
If you can move the boxes to the bottom.
I'm trying. Oh,
That's good.
Well, now I don't know who's talking. So, all right, keep on going, and I
Okay.
will figure this out.
And this performance index is the measure that's used by the Connecticut State Department of Education to show overall achievement in the district. The student growth metric is another metric that we will share with you at a later date. We didn't want to bombard you with too much data at this time. So we'll start with the performance index. This slide just tells you a little bit more about
Yeah, okay.
the performance index. Again, it's an average performance of students in different subject areas, ELA, mathematics or science. We're focusing tonight on ELA and mathematics on the SBAC. The index ranges from 0 to 100 and is reported for all students and for students in individual student groups, which you'll see on our slide. The thing that's important to note, and we'll look at it as we look at our goal slides later on in the presentation, the state has set the ultimate target for performance index at 75. So when you're looking at the numbers that we currently have, just keep that in mind. And again, we'll use that number to set goals later on in the presentation.
Now, this is how the state of Connecticut, really the averaging of all the students who take the assessment and the trend line. And as you can see, going back to 2017-18, 18-19, you don't see a 19-20 or a 20-21, but we're back on par at 21-22, looking at the trends, just because of the interruption of the pandemic. So if you look at ELA on the left-hand side from 2017-18, the average performance for the state was 67.6. In mathematics that same year, it was 62.7. The following year, 18-19, we don't, and then the science is still not applicable. I think that they hadn't really rolled out the NGSS at that point, or they didn't have anything to compare it to. And then in 18-19, you went from 67.6 average in ELA to 67.7, just an incremental increase of 0.1%. In mathematics, it went from 62.7 to 63.1. And then this year, I think I had told you that while we might have not have gotten back to our 2019 data, we looked at science performance is 63.8 for the state. In ELA for 21-22, we're at 64.2. So you see, even the state data did not reconcile back to where it was prior to COVID, which was 67.7. It's a little lower. And then the mathematics data even took more of a hit in the state. It was 58.6 compared to 63.1, which was the last time we were able to assess kids with COVID, before COVID. And then in science, you see the 61.4 this past year compared to 18-19, which would have been 63.8. So this just helps orient you to keep in mind. So when you look at our data, you can kind of see how we fall comparatively.
Okay. And again, keep in mind that the goal for the state is to get every district with a performance index of 75 in each indicator as we're looking at this data. Tom, you want to start walking us through the slides?
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Apologize for having to join you guys in person. I'm awaiting some test results right now, and hopefully I'll be back soon. So as you can see, I put on the data going back from 2016, 2017. You'll notice that Groton has a metric for 2020, 2021. I do want to be clear. I calculated this myself. So I figured out for every one of our students what their performance index would have been, so we could have a performance index from last year. This is not an official state number because the state decided not to do that. But for comparison's sake, I wanted everybody to see where we would have been in 2020, 21, because I think it helps us kind of orient ourselves to where we are kind of in coming back from the pandemic. So we did have consistent growth from 2016 through 2019. And again, this is grades 3 through 8 SBAC ELA. So this is English language arts only. And this is for all students. So we had consistent growth from 68.1 to 16.9 prior to the pandemic. We have that gap year of 2019, 2020 with no testing. We had a pretty large drop to 64% immediately following the pandemic, but then we did rebound over 2.1 points to 66.1, which is a fairly large increase from 64. And sorry, I should not have said percent. To be very clear, these are not percentages, these are indexes. So overall, a strong rebound, but we do still have about 2 points to go to get back to where we were prior to the pandemic.
And we really did see, you're gonna be seeing the breakout by grade level the next time we, bring this to you. And you're gonna see some of the growth models, so we're gonna give you even more things to look at and to ask questions about. But I would say that across the board at almost every grade level, we saw some measured improvement in ELA from last year
Yes, that's correct.
or the year
From
before.
From the 2020, 2021 year to
Right.
21, 22, every grade level saw improvement. That is correct.
So do
so-
you want to ask any questions about this data at this point? Or do you want to see the math and then ask questions?
Tim, I had a question. We're still, I mean, even though there was a little bit of growth from 2016 to 2019, and then of course the dip from the pandemic, but we're still pretty far away from the 75 points that the state would like us to be at. So, it'd be wonderful when we do have the principals here to have them address this, and what are they going to specifically doing in their schools to increase the performance index for their students, because this kind of lumps them all in, but we're going to be receiving it by school, correct?
Well, that's why I think it's
That's
so
correct.
important for the principals to share their action plans. However, I have to tell you that in this case, we were above the state across the board here. So we outdid the state, and the state has 75 for the whole state as the target as
Right,
well. So I think
understand
it's
that.
something that we're all going to be working very hard on.
Right, but when we do see the principals, we'll have the information specifically for each school, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. With the so what, now what? What can we do about this to
Right,
accelerate learning even better?
Thank you.
Yes. So we're ready for math?
Nope, this is the high
Oh,
needs.
we do high
Oh,
needs.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, so just to be very clear, so Susan referred to the state report card earlier. So the state report card really focuses on two groups of students, all students and everybody all together, and then high needs students, which are both students who have IEPs, special education students, students who are ELL, or students who receive free and reduced lunch services. They may count multiple times within that category, but they group all those students together. So again, the target is still 75 here for the state of Connecticut. You can see we had consistent growth from 16 all the way through 19, 59 up to almost 62. We did have a drop after the pandemic down to 57.8, but gained a point back this year. So again, we look to keep that growth going forward. So as Susan said, green is for math. So notice we have switched to math now. And again, we're looking at the group for all students. So overall growth from 2016 to 2017 up to 2019 from 63.3 up to 63.8, a larger drop than an ELA down to 54.9 for 20 to 21, but then a much larger jump this past year, 21-22, all the way back up to 59.4. So a very large jump last year compared to the year prior.
And yet the 59.4 is still an improvement to what the state overall is as well.
Yes, correct. And again, this is looking at the second grouping of students, the subgroup that the state looks at for high needs students. So here again, overall growth from 16-17 up to 2018-2019, a large drop on the pandemic and another noticeable bump over 3 points.
I just want to mention though, when we talk about offering that extra tutoring, the extra intervention during the school day, the resource teachers with special education students who have IEPs, they are receiving additional support in multiple ways during the day, during the summer, after school. So just know that while that support is really for all kids, you'll see that with the high need students, because of the EL teachers that we provide and the tutors that we provide, with special education, the special education resource teachers who are highly trained, like in a lot of different programs specifically designed for children with dyslexia and other facets. we are really trying to take care of their needs in a very accelerated way because we want them to achieve like the rest of the population and even better. So they still have a target of 75 as well.
So just as we did in the chronic absenteeism presentation, we wanted to be able to compare our numbers to different groups. So one of them we looked at is our district reference group, our DIRG. So these are districts that are supposed to be kind of our comparison cohort socioeconomically. So you'll see in comparison to kind of our cohort in DIRG G, we compare very favorably all the way at the top. 66.1 was the highest score in group G for the DIRG. And again, this is for ELA only. For the math test, again, in DIRG G, we performed very well in comparison to the cohort. The only district who was able to outperform us was Vernon at 60.3, but our 59.4 was a very high second because third place was almost 3 points lower overall. So this is a very
We're kind of neck and neck with Vernon in both math and ELA.
Absolutely.
And have a lot of similar things happening for our teachers, so.
This report compares us to all of the alliance districts within the state. So see, it's much larger. There's a lot more alliance districts than what exists in our DIRG. So I apologize for how small the bars are. You'll see here, the Groton outperformed everyone else. I apologize for not being able to add the numbers on the top of the bars, but there were so many different towns included in here. There was no way to get them in without having them be about a 4-point font, which you would have been able to read. So I apologize for that. If you're interested in the specific numbers for each town, I'm happy to send those to you.
Well, that would have been for ELA 66.1%.
Yep. And for this, yep, that's for ELA. And then
for math,
yep.
it
for
would have
math,
been 59.4.
Yeah, but for the other alliance districts, if they would like the specific numbers.
Yeah.
Mhm. But again, Vernon was the only town to outperform us in math within the alliance as well. So this is looking at by region, kind of our regional towns, with a range all the way from New London's score of 49 to Stonington's score of 75. So Stonington hit that state target this year. Groton falls roughly in the middle of the cohort regionally. This is our math performance index. So with this one, New London, again, at the bottom of the regional index with North Stonington at the top. None of the districts in the region hit the state target of 75. Groton falls in, I would say, the lower third of this ranking this year.
And it's interesting, if you look at the middle group, Groton, Montville, Ledyard, and Preston, they're kind of all hovering around that 60-point number. So you can see that we're kind of clustered together.
So I just want to take a second to kind of explain this slide. So the index rate, the blue, that is what Groton's actual score was. The ESSA milestone red. So back in 2016, 2017, following the Every Student Succeeds Act, Connecticut set goals for every single district from 2016-17 all the way through 2030. Every district's end goal was the same. It was 75. They didn't use any fancy math to calculate. All they did is they said, well, in 2016, Groton, you're at 68.1. You have to get to 75. They took those number of years and divided the distance Groton needed to go, and that's your growth rate for the year. So if you had to move 10 points over 10 years, they were projecting you to make 1 point of growth every year. Some districts had really, really aggressive growth curves. You can imagine if you were extremely low, down at 50 in 2016-17, you had to make a lot of growth every year to get to that target of 75. If you were a district who was at 73 in 2016-2017, you had very, very small growth that they were projecting you to make based off those ESSA milestones. These ESSA milestones are frozen in time. They were submitted as part of the ESSA application for the state. They do not change and they are not variable. So they basically have been frozen in time since that 2016-17 school year. So again, the red is the ESSA milestone. That is the target set by the state. The blue is what Groton has actually scored. So you can see up right until before the pandemic in 2019, we were right on track, very, very close to that growth curve that the state was projecting. We didn't have an index rate in 2019, 2020. But we have, after the pandemic, not surprisingly, we have not kept the growth curve that they are projecting for us. And that is the same for every district in the state. we fell down to 64. We made considerable growth back up to 66.1, but we are still well below that 70.7 ESSA milestone. But again, they didn't change the ESSA milestones following the pandemic. They have kept them the same for every district. Same exact concept here. The green is Groton's actual score. The red is what the state had put on for our ESSA milestone targets. So again, we were relatively close to keeping pace with those ESSA milestones prior to the pandemic in 2018, 2019. Did not have a score in 2019, 2020. With our scores falling down to 54.9%, we are well below the ESSA target in 2021. We did make, almost 5 points growth in up to 21, 22, but well below the target for ESSA of 67.8.
So we were discussing it, at the district level. How do we forecast for the future? What is that going to look like? And to make it reasonable, but still end up with that 75 target by 2030. So Tom did an outstanding job doing this forecasting. So we'll show you this next interesting slide, which makes it the growth more reasonable year to year, but still gets us to the end game, 75.
So as you saw in the prior slides, we have a pretty substantial gap, for lack of a better term, to make up, right, to try to get back to our ESSA targets. But it's unreasonable to think that we could make all of that growth in 1 year. So what we've essentially done is recalculated the ESSA targets. So we've taken 21, 22 as our new baseline. So 66.1 is our new baseline. We are sticking to the original goal of having a 75 in 29-30. We've just redistributed that growth across the remaining years going up to 29-30. So what we've done essentially is made our growth curve much more aggressive. We've accelerated that growth over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years to try to get back to that 75 target. So we've kept our end goal the same. We've just made our growth more aggressive over the next 9 years to meet that target.
And we will report that with our Alliance tracker, whether it's with the ARP ESSER funding, with all of the, the grants that we've received to showcase this is how we're going to get there.
Absolutely. And I do just want to note, we did copy the same methodology that the original ESSA targets were sent with. We did not try to do any kind of, exponential forecasting. We just went with a straight linear growth curve.
No magic to this formula.
No magic at all. We did the exact same thing with math. So we took 21, 22, a 59.4 score as our baseline. We kept the exact same target in 29-30 of 75. We took the growth that we need to make and we evenly distributed it across the remaining years.
So I would love to hear from the board. So it helps me frame out. I know that one of the next steps is to look at the secondary data and fine tune both the Groton Middle School data by grade level, looking at the high school and both 8th grade and 11th grade have the NGSS that we need to review with you. Instead of SBAC as a state test for the high school, they have the SAT, which is in 11th grade. So each of the principals, we're actually going to start talking about it tomorrow. We've been talking about it, but to fine tune the, what is the action steps we need. And there's a lot happening this year at the high school and the middle school to help accelerate learning, to provide those interventions during the school day, after school, not only with regard to grades, but also to use the data that we've received back from the state to help us fine tune what the kids will need. So.
Any questions from the board? Steve.
Sort of a general question, because I haven't been in the biz for very long. So what we have is goals, measurement, are we meeting, when will we meet, what are we going to do to meet, etc. It occurs to me that this probably isn't the first time that the state, for example, has attempted, maybe not this way, to say what's going on in school, where would we like to be, should we set goals, how do we do this? In other words, I think there have been attempts to skin this cat in other ways in the past. And I'm asking this because the core is going to be, well, what are we going to do? Now that we know where we are, where we want to go, how do we get there kind of thing? And have we learned from prior attempts, perhaps didn't work out? We thought something was a good idea and it turned out that a multi-year investment in something resulted in absolutely no improvement whatsoever, math or language or what have you. Maybe it's apples and oranges, but it's really more of a comment than a question, which is, what do we have amnesia when it comes to what happened before this, or do we know what happened before and what worked and didn't that we can apply to this effort?
I would say we absolutely know what was making progress for us. The work we've done with Teachers College, Columbia University, the reading and writing, I think because students were really reading and writing even during COVID, we saw them continuing to make progress from last year to this past year. But I think when you're in a hybrid situation and you're seeing the kids in person for only 2 days, and then they're expected to do it remotely, sometimes with parent supervision, sometimes in a daycare, sometimes with grandma, that they didn't have the support of a certified teacher 5 days a week like they needed. So that was a huge piece of information. And some high schoolers were able to handle the remote learning better than others. Same at the elementary level, not as much. We saw it more in high school that the remote learning worked for some kids. So I would say that we really need to get back and lean into the initiatives that we're really driving and helping us navigate and make progress. So, we don't have to do this thing remotely anymore.
So would you say that but for COVID, we were on track, things that were being done were part of a solid trend, so that but for COVID, we would be on track to meet the 75? Nothing to worry about. We're driving down the road. We'll get there.
I'm very confident.
Okay, so we've just been interrupted. That's all.
The data seem to indicate that in those years previous to COVID.
Okay.
And I was just going to speak to another point. I don't know really how to measure this, but one aspect I think we have now that we probably didn't have back then is the social emotional support for kids. Again, I don't know how you'd measure the impact that might have on scores, but I'm hoping that as we continue to move forward, we'll see those gains just because we have more support structures in place, not just academically, but social emotional as well.
And the administrator plan, and when Ted gets a chance to come and talk to you about some of the things that are happening at the high school and here also at the middle school, you can see how we're really paying close attention, student by student, at their data, whether it's their classroom performance, whether it's looking at the SBAC or the SAT, or whether it's the the first rapid Lexia data. So really fine tuning that and getting support with certified teachers, tutors, Falcon Academy after school, all those things are put into place. So I'm excited for you to learn more about that, because I think it's where we really get the bang for our buck is student by student. It really matters that we're paying attention.
So these things tend to have very long cycle times. And education is full of this, but education is not alone. Industry also does the same thing. We go through learning and relearning, sometimes the same thing all over again. And it can look from a high level, from looking out over, say, the last 50 years, maybe, if you want to do that you start to see patterns of, same stuff, just different day. Another decade, more different labels, but it's really, you're in the same sort of gerbil wheel. And we've been there, we've done it, we don't reach, but you're confident that, again, but for COVID, we were on our way and would have gotten there. Or
Our
will be
teachers
getting
will tell you that things have changed on them over and over. They just want to have some sustainability and to do the deeper dive into some of the things that we've introduced. So I think taking the time doing the deeper dive is really important now that we're back.
I have a question. I was thinking about this when I looked at it over the weekend, but Dean, I think kind of alluded to it, is that years back when actually Beverly, Rita, and I were on the board, it was not the SBAC, it was the CMTs, and then they moved to the Smarter Balance. And my question is, Tom, with your growth model, what happens if over 9 years, because we're talking about this was like 9 years ago, the country went from using their CMT or whatever it was and did a unified smarter balance. And I'm assuming that our index will then change because the testing or what it tests is going to change.
So yes and no. I think logically, yes, they're measuring different things at that point, but the index is made to convert any test to a common index. So for example, it can take a 3rd grade student's SBAC test and a 11th grader's SAT and put them on a common scale. So they try to let you compare them apples to apples. Now we know it's apples and oranges, but they try to put them on the same scale for us so we can kind of gauge overall performance with very different student groups, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Now that being said, to your point of what happens if we suddenly decided to change course, I can tell you that when the Connecticut State Department of Education submitted their plan preceding the 2016-2017 year, they committed to using Smarter Balance through 2030, and they committed to those scores. It's way above my pay grade to say whether they could change that or not. I think the federal government would have something to say about that because it was tied to that federal funding. But as far as I know, we are committed to that through 2030.
Okay.
And I would say in addition to that, this assessment, Smarter Balance, is directly aligned to the Connecticut core. It's our Smarter Balance, so it's our assessment in Connecticut. It's directly in line with what the state has provided us as standards, what our teachers have really been immersed in. So part of what they've learned through the process to learn deeply what those standards mean. And even at the elementary level, not only is it aligned to the curriculum, the instructional model, and the assessment, but it's also aligned to their report card in a standards-based way. So I would say elementary probably has done the deepest dive in this work, but we're going to be rolling out now with middle school, looking at the MYP standards and the SBAC together. So really going deeper into what we've been doing and continuing to make it challenging and relevant to kids.
Cool.
So.
Tom, Susan, and Phil, thank you very much. It was easy to read, and I think it is getting us looking forward to, once again, hearing what each school is doing. It's been a long time since we've had that experience, so that's going to be cool. So if there's no further questions from the board, I am going to move us on in the agenda. The assistant superintendent.
I segued.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I was just going to give a report on a few of the committees that I have the pleasure of working with in the district. There's a number of committees, but the 3 in which it's comprised of administrators and teachers throughout the district that really drives the work throughout the year, and that I'll be reporting on throughout the year. The first is the Curriculum and Instruction Council. That is, again, made up of teachers and administrators from across the district on all levels. We did hold our first meeting just last week. And really what I use this as is really sort of to take the message from the Board of Ed and from the Board of Ed curriculum subcommittee to sort of lay out the expectations in terms of curriculum. We reviewed the curriculum handbook, the curriculum timeline for new curriculum and updated curriculum, and reviewed the forms that are available to them if they want to propose a new class, propose a new textbook, propose new instructional software. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts this year. There's a lot of new teachers on the committee. And what I've found over the past year is that a lot of people aren't aware of a lot of the procedures that are in place. So part of the charge of this committee, I told them if they were volunteering to be on this committee, was that they were going to act as liaisons and the mouthpiece for this committee back in their buildings. And I've asked the principals to allow these representatives some time at faculty meetings to report back on the work that's there. It was a great conversation. A lot of people, we talked a little bit about courses on the horizon and what needs to be done to get those off the ground. And the part that we didn't get to that I was really looking the most forward to is we were going to have some breakout groups and really talk about the priorities at each level, both the elementary and the secondary. So that's going to be sort of the work leading up to our next meeting, and hopefully we can get some of that work done before that meeting, so we can really accomplish some goals at the next meeting and not have to do some of that pre-work to really make that time valuable that we have together. That committee meets 4 times over the course of the year, and the next meeting will be in November. The other committee is the Groton Teaching and Learning Committee. Again, that's made up of representatives from all over the district, different levels. The primary focus of this is professional development and the teacher evaluation plan, or the G plan. Our first meeting is next week. So we have not yet met yet, but we really are going to focus this year on reviewing the professional development surveys that go out after every professional development day. When we have our TLI days or our full day PDs, even this in August, the first couple days, at this first meeting, we'll be reviewing the data received back from teachers on our opening day professional development. We didn't get to do a lot of that last year, so I really want to make those surveys valuable and make the teachers understand that we are reading them and we are adjusting our professional development according to their responses. And if something works, we want to continue to do that and to continue to offer those things. And if not, we want to change things up. And again, we look at this, not only I look at things at the district level, and then we can break down these surveys by school. So we get that information to the principals so they can continue to plan for the future. So that's a lot of work that's going to be done by this committee. And then, of course, the GED, a teacher evaluation plan. We work, there's a lot of members of, I work hand in hand with Beth Horler, the president of the teachers union, to nail down the language of our plan and make sure that everybody understands it and it's communicated as to what the expectations are for the teachers and the expectations for the administrators. We're expecting some changes to come from the state. We were supposed to get some this fall or winter. They have been pushed, we hear, until after the new year in terms of what the state's going to do with teacher evaluation. And so we are anxiously awaiting that, because obviously that will alter the things that we're doing here. So that'll be part of our work, probably more than likely the second half of the year. But the GTLC, or the Groton Teaching and Learning Committee, again, focuses on professional development and that teacher evaluation. And then the final one is the district data team, which is exactly what it sounds like. We gather data similar to what you've seen here, and probably even breaking it down further into subgroup data. Again, looking at it at the district level, making sure we get the data back to the building level. It's also an opportunity for the building reps. This team is made up of one administrator and one building rep from each building, so it's a little bit smaller. They'll also be bringing data from their schools, so we can compare and contrast the different schools, see what's working in some schools, so we can hopefully really move all the buildings ahead by looking at best practices and seeing what's working in the different buildings across the district. Again, that first meeting is not until November, after we have some data that we can really look at from the school year. So that has not met yet. But those are the 3 committees that I get to work on, again, with building representatives, building administration, and teachers that help really move the work forward throughout the year. And a lot of the stuff that comes out of those committees will be brought here as well to share, so you are aware of what's going on.
Any questions for Bill? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the business manager report.
All right.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing dandy.
So I'm sharing on the screen. This is attachment number 2. This is our object code summary for FY23. Sorry, a lot of numbers, but you'll see at the very bottom that our projected unexpended balance is 41,126. This report reflects the following: increased transportation expenses due to the 2 additional buses required. the increased cost for the heating oil and diesel that we spoke of at the last meeting. There is additional severance costs for a teacher and 2 paras that was not originally considered in the budget. These are all offset by a decreased cost for one FTE teacher position at Mystic River, as well as cost savings for replacement of 2 para 1s with 2 para 2 positions. Holding back of a percentage of site budgets and a decrease in the out-of-district special education tuition costs. We haven't gotten the bills in yet, but we took a look at that, and we do believe we are a little bit heavy in that area. So we brought that back by 4%.
In other words, we had, it looked like we were preparing for more than what we have, so we're able to adjust that.
We still have approximately 8.5% more than we had in the prior year in the budget, so we feel like we are sufficiently covered at this point.
And I have talked to the principals about, and I'll be talking to them individually about holding back. Mike used to do this on a regular basis, the 25%, so that we really can march our way through and make sure that we are, we got to figure out what's going to happen over the winter. So we're going to be cautious about that.
41, it's the end of September.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We got a ways to go, but
Usually like triple this or something. Or at least triple.
every year is different. This year, I think it will be a challenge, but all indications at this point is it'll be all right. But we'll see what happens.
And we're expecting that we're going to be spending this entire amount, that everything will come to fruition, including these kind of anomalies that came forward in inflation. We didn't have the crystal ball last year at this time to see what was happening. I know.
Paid sales of heavy sweaters.
Well, sweaters might not be bad. We can take down the heat a little bit.
Any questions on the object code summary?
Actually, I do have a question. Now that you mentioned that, are we required by the state to keep our building at a certain minimum temperature? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just sort of curious now that the subject came up. Is there a requirement that we keep them at least, whatever?
I'll defer.
There are. There's a minimum and a maximum.
Okay. I kind of thought so.
I can get it for you.
No, that's okay. I was just sort of curious if there was one. I guess I'm not shocked.
Beth?
Thank you, Ken. Ken, is there anything that we should be concerned about or keep an eye on in the future?
I think we should be concerned about inflation continuing to increase. That's going to put pressure on all of our expenses. As far as the diesel and heating oil, we are kind of locked in at this point. So I think that what we're doing right now for that is the worst of it. But all the other expenses are subject to inflationary pressures.
I mean, even just the use of paper, because you can't get paper, but that's not such a bad thing. We do have the technology to support, but also, I don't know if you remember those black and white notebooks, but those notebooks are good writing tools. So instead of using and filling in a worksheet and using paper, reams of it, for a child to come in with a writing notebook is a real valuable way to correct that issue. So we really looked at ways that we can be efficient, but also continue our excellent teaching.
Good question, Beverly. Any other questions? Hearing none, let's do the insurance.
Yes. We'll share that one. That is attachment number 3. Oops. Sorry about that. So this is our health insurance claims report for the month of July 2022. Claims for the month are at 77.2% of projection. This compares with last year, it was 87.7% for July of 2021 and 86.8% for July of 2019. I'm skipping July 2020 because that was very impacted by COVID. So those numbers don't make sense. So this 77 is quite a bit lower than, or 10% or so lower than those two years, but I think it's trending as expected. These types of HSA plans, the deductible resets in July. So typically it's lower in the July and August, and then it continues to build as those deductibles get used up. You know, I think I'd like to see where August comes in, but I think we're on track pretty much as in previous years at this point.
Any questions on that? All right. And then
Attachment number 4. So we actually went over this in the last COW, but just to refresh, these are the proposed school meal prices. We last adjusted these prices in 2019. We base these off the USDA reimbursement rate. So I put those both on the page. And you'll see that our increase is approximately the same increase as that USDA reimbursement rate. I also added in just this additional chart that just shows you how that compares. So we're actually at 80% or so of the USDA reimbursement rate. So, you know, both the last time we did it as well as this time, we're trying to be consistent in keeping these prices at an 80% of the USDA rate. And we'll be voting on this
yes.
later today.
Yep, this will be we're taking that vote. That will be number 4 is the motion to approve the recommendation that comes from Ernie and Ken, but also from the Finance and Facilities Committee.
Kim, I had a question for Ken about the chart.
Yeah.
Okay. Ken, I don't quite understand the reimbursement rates for 2022, 23, the middle of the page. So do we get reimbursed for lunches for those students that are free and reduced lunch, $4.33?
Correct.
Okay. And yet we want to charge. So we're actually like, from what we're charging is like $3, you were proposing $3.75. But if you took that 58 cents, which is the difference, and subtracted it, couldn't we use some of that excess money to be used to help the people that have to pay for lunches and breakfast?
So the rate that we get reimbursed by the USDA, how can I put this? The rate that we are proposing here at 80% of USDA, it kind of takes into account it's just the overall pool of funds that come in. So we're getting $4.33 for a free student that gets free lunch, and then there's some catering that Ernie does as well, like the beach
Right.
stand. And so if you put all that together, it comes out to that we need these types of prices in order to maintain the program as self-sufficient.
So it's reimbursing for lunch, but then his enterprise fund has to pay for the people who service the cafeteria.
But it would,
equipment. So there's other costs.
but not Ernie's salary, correct?
No, Ernie's salary is.
No, we don't pay
Still
for
taken out of
salary. It's
there.
all within the enterprise.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay, and it would be nice to know if they made a profit at the beach this year. We haven't, we don't usually get to see that breakdown, but it would be nice to know, like, if, I'm just trying to figure out a way where we don't have to raise our prices for the schools that have to pay for lunches. So I'm still trying to figure that out. And also I know that the state of, the federal government actually has $3 billion for Keep Kids Fed Act. So that's like money that you could apply. Is that additional money that you could apply for, or is that part of the USDA?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We'll have to check
We'll have
into
to check
that.
into that.
Yeah, it's something new that, and I think it was to help offset lunches for schools. So it's a new act. It's called Keep Kids Fed Act, and they have $3 billion that districts could apply for some of that money.
We are collecting forms from parents, the free and reduced forms. They're online. We're encouraging it. I'll probably be sending out another message. Help us, help you and others is the campaign.
Right.
Because we feel like the more data we have on free and reduced lunch is going to support Groton in receiving any additional funding. And, and Alliance money and everything. We really need to get a handle. Because of COVID, we weren't really able to collect the forms like we have in the past.
Right.
So what you're saying is true. Really, the goal is ultimately to see if Groton couldn't be one of those districts where we could take care of all of our
All
children.
of them. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too.
Thank
So
you.
those forms, if parents are out there listening, please turn in those free and reduced lunch forms. It's going to help you. It might help your neighbor. It helps all of us.
Right, and the deadline is September 30th, correct? To turn them in?
Yes.
Yeah, Friday.
Friday. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Any other questions? Awesome. Let's move on to Mr. Kilpatrick.
Oh, good evening. I have two items that I want to report on tonight. The first is the solar panels for the two schools. And that is in regard to the power purchase agreement, what we refer to as the PPA. So that agreement has been going back and forth between the attorneys, our attorney, Greenbank's attorney, Rick Norris, and myself. So we've been working on that diligently for quite some time, longer than I had hoped. But at any rate, we finally sent off our final list of items. There was only one more thing that we needed to change on that. So we're just waiting for the final copy to come back, and that will be ready for the superintendent to sign. Once that's signed, then it would take 12 to 16 weeks for the materials to arrive on site. And so it looks like it would be a spring or summertime project, depending upon how bad the weather is this winter. The second item are the field lights at Groton Middle School. And again, we're working on that with the contractor. And also the contractor has signed a contract with Kent Frost out of Mystic to do the final plans for that. And that is moving along. Again, that we had hoped that would be a fall project, or we hoped it's going to be a summer project. But again, that looks like that would be a spring project at the earliest.
But we do have temporary lights up. So we're still able to.
Yeah, we have lights that
We have, the temporary ones we kept for the fall.
Wow. Any questions? All right, I'm moving us along. So we're now on committee reports, policy.
We met on August. At any rate, we have policies here for you tonight for the first reading. It's cleaning facilities, advanced course programs, and eligibility to participate in interscholastic high school athletics. And I'm losing my voice, but I wanted to thank in particular the staff at the high school Mr. Romano and Mr. Kelleher, who worked diligently to bring the eligibility to play policy to our first reading, and I'm hoping for our acceptance. I have to say that they went out of their way to make sure that children the students who are eligible to play meet academic standards and and they're designing ways, very specific ways for them to receive support. So, pardon. The naming of facilities, we're happy to bring that tonight. We had long discussions about, maybe you could take over.
So we really broke it down into the naming of the facility, the school building, which would be the committee that we've used with the 3 new buildings, so very similar. And then the naming of parts of the building, like the library. So that would be really for the Board of Ed, whether it's an ad hoc committee to make those decisions. So we've broken it up into those 2 parts to try to really clarify that process and simplify.
Yes, simplify is really part of it.
Super. And we'll have more conversation about that when we get to that. And we'll,
Yes.
between you and Susan, boys, we can do that. You got it. Curriculum, I know that Liz is traveling. Is there anyone here from curriculum subcommittee? Because Matthew is celebrating the holiday, so.
And we did not meet this month because of scheduling issues, so we're not
Okay.
gonna meet again until next month.
Okay. That was a quick report. Thank you. Jay, I see you are on, and so finance and facilities.
Yes, so we met on September the 6th. We discussed the need for some additional buses and the cost, due to all the routes that we maintain. We also, believe it or not, began to review the budget timeline. You heard me right. We are already starting to think about next year's budget. So Ken marched us through that schedule. We discussed fuel costs that Ken talked about earlier, the diesel, the heating oil, how we're locked in on some of these, how different buildings are under different contracts for natural gas, depending on when they were existing or built. We looked at the pricing for food nutrition that Ken discussed. And once again, the idea of this is at the end of the year, this is an enterprise project of the board, and so it doesn't make any money. In point of fact, I think most years there's a small deficit, and I do know that Food Services even runs a fundraiser to try to erase that. So it's not all these extra funds that we can offset with. And let's see, we got the update on the solar panels, that it's basically still at the contract phase. We've received an update from Mr. Kilpatrick on the Fieldhouse study that was completed, and there are a few options. We discussed this actually at the last committee of the whole. We are waiting to see actual copies of that study. And I believe Chairman Watson is going to schedule a meeting with the Athletic Fields Committee so that we can work with them on which direction we want to go with that. And then we discussed the food service classrooms study. We know we want to modernize that wing of the high school. There's a great demand for food service classes among the students, and we want to allow more of our students to pursue that, along with the other programs we have at the high school. People have mentioned, well, they could go to Grasso. Well, number one, they may want to do that in addition to other things they can only do at Fitch. And Grasso, of course, is also something you have to apply to. So, we've made a commitment to increase the capacity and modernize those spaces. And that's all.
Wow, thank
That was
you.
a lot.
And communications did not meet this month as well, and it's scheduled for October. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And we're
can't
gonna
remember.
welcome Dr. Horgan to the committee and get him caught up to date, hopefully before the.
Okay, all right. Good luck on that one. All right. Negotiations, we are in the midst of negotiation with the administration union, and our next meeting is Thursday at 5:30. Okay. Rita, learn.
Yes, learn. We had our regular board meeting on September 8th. At that time, we had a presentation by the Assistant Executive Director, Dr. Ryan Donlin, who provided a whole overview of all the openings of their schools. They also showed a little video of their convocation. They have so many staff members that they have and don't have a place to have everybody come together because they have schools in East Hartford and everywhere. So they just do a video for their convocation. What I wanted to mention that there is going to be the state is actually hosting, it's called Igniting Change. It's October 19th at the Connecticut Convention Center, and it's for all professional learning collaboratives available to all districts. And the keynote speaker is Dr. H. Richard Milner, who is the author of the award-winning book, Start Where You Are, But Don't Stay There, Striving to help educators in the fight for social justice, equality, inclusion, transformation for all students. So that would be something that if any of our teachers, our staff wanted to attend, that's October 19th at the Connecticut Convention Center. Also, the Marine Science Magnet School, where many of our students attend, they were the only high school to present at the National Conference on Aquarium Sciences with all these other colleges that were there. The Marine Science High School, they have a wonderful program where they're growing coral. And that is what they spoke of. And they actually sell the coral once a year and have, gotten quite popular. So, but that's about it. I mean, it was and they're doing fingerprinting again. Susan, where do our staff go for fingerprinting?
I think they actually go to learn most of the time.
They are going to learn again. Okay, because for a while they didn't, and we had to go to the police department, which was very slow.
I don't think that we're doing that as much as going to learn.
Yeah, that's
I'll
great.
check. Yeah.
I'm glad they're having it again at Learn because it's much quicker than getting the results than when we went to our local police department. But that's about it. It was a really good meeting. Yeah.
Thank you, Rita. The next is the town council RTM Board of Ed liaison. Actually, there was a town councilor that had reached out to me that wants to kind of get it going. So I'm in correspondence with actually a town councilor, Juliet Parker, to get that going. So I am looking forward to that. We do not have a liaison meeting scheduled, or at least it's not on my calendar. But Rita, do you have, or
Carrie
Jay?
said, what is this for?
The liaison meeting with the Board of Ed.
I'm not sure when the next one. It's supposed to be in usually October or November.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So I didn't mean to go. Yeah.
I think Phil sees that tomorrow morning or sometime this week.
What's today? Wednesday morning.
Okay,
Maybe
so if
you
you
guys
could,
get out your calendars and see when it is, if we have one
Sure.
scheduled.
Groton scholarships, I believe Liz Porter is our liaison for that. Athletic fields, Jay, I think you,
Before you go beyond that, I had asked before for people that have donated to the Groton Scholarship. In the past, we have received the pamphlet in the mail that says where your scholarship, who received it. And I've had 2 other people that have asked me, you know, why haven't we received that? And I asked this at our August meeting. And I'm hoping that someone at the high school will get on board with this and send these out, because it is really nice if someone takes the time to donate the money, they should at least see who's received the scholarship. So I'm hoping we get that going. Susan, maybe you can put a bug at someone at the high school's ear.
Yeah, Principal Kelleher sitting right here, so he.
Oh, great.
and
Thank
he
you.
looks like he's writing on his phone. So
Oh.
you might be in luck this time.
Thanks so much.
I may have some insight into that, because I found out accidentally that my scholarship did not go to the young man who it was designated to. And when I spoke to the people on the board, they send the money directly to the college. So I had to really advocate for that young man's money not to go to the college, because it would reduce the amount of funding that he got.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to be able to use it for books and
Yes, it should be whatever. It shouldn't go right to the colleges. It never did before. And in the past, the student would always send a thank you note. And that's another thing we didn't receive this year.
Well, let me say that, I received a thank you note. But let me say that I spoke with the people on Groton Scholarship, and they were unaware that monies would be reduced. They didn't understand that. And they're having a second meeting, I think they said in October, and they're going to bring that up again. But I was able to get that money for my young man.
Ted, do you serve on that committee or as a liaison?
I've been to committee meetings, I'm not on the committee.
Okay. Do we have faculty or do we have someone from the school?
Yeah.
Do you think that you could get that information to that person or designated people so that we could get the answers to that?
You
Awesome.
must have counselors on there, right? They would be the
We have a
ones.
number of faculty members that sit on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna try to have some of that stuff come back to us with information about the Groton Scholarship. Cards, acknowledgement, and do they know that the money is being?
I mean, it always comes at graduation night, and I usually pick one up, but I was not at graduation first time in many years this year, because our son was getting married, but that's usually where, but it's also sent to you in the mail. And
Okay.
I think it's very important for those people that just to see who received it, and it would be nice.
Yeah, thank you. Jay, do you have anything further than what you reported out in the finance and facilities?
Well, no, the athletic fields did not meet this month just because they're still dealing with the visioning project on the Claude Chester school site.
Okay. And just to let you and the board know that I think I CC'd you guys. I did send a note to the town manager and to the mayor about the board wanting to meet with the Trails Committee and the rec department to kind of talk about our concerns that were raised at the committee of the whole and how we can kind of partner with them to move the project forward. Because I think, Jay, your comment last week was very helpful for me in really understanding that this is going to be a large scope process. And we really are needing to think about this like we did around the 3 new schools in terms of getting out to the community about why we're having that done. So as soon as I hear back from someone, I will be more than happy to let the board know. Rita?
Yes, Jay, are they just talking about fields? Or are they talking about the building also?
My understanding is that the charge of the town council a few years ago was that they are to look at every field and facility associated with athletics. So our understanding is that that would include the field house, the concession stand, and of course, the idea that someone had brought forward to flip the football field could possibly affect the buildings that are there. It will also affect the track, and everything else. So the town council wanted a comprehensive discussion about what the needs are townwide for fields and facilities, so that it could come in as one package rather than coming in as CIPs.
Mhm.
That was my,
Yeah, well, my question is if you knew whether or not Clodchester would be going up for sale or not. I know Learn is looking for a new site, they possibly for the multicultural magnet school. So I was just curious if whether or not in your talk about the trails and the fields, if they mentioned the school.
well, what
So that-
what the town did was they had a public visioning workshop.
Right.
And people suggested what they want to see happen to Clodchester, whether it's remove the building, put fields. Some people want to make that into a town green. I heard there was another organization that was interested in the building, so I don't know whether they might still be in play on that. And so all of that visioning data was collected. I don't know exactly what the status is of organizing it. And then I believe ultimately it's the town council that will decide which direction they're going to take. And then all of the other things that we've been working on for years in terms of field needs and facility needs around the town will then all be put together with that for one project.
I see.
And given that Sam mentioned at the last meeting that just our needs at the high school field for buildings and fields could be in the neighborhood of multi-millions of dollars, then I would have to assume that this will need a townwide referendum for this entire fields project. So it's not something that's going to be a CIP next year.
Right. I'm just more thinking if somebody wants to buy a building, one of our schools, that would be a revenue for the town. Learn was interested in Fitch Middle a number of years ago when they said, no, it's going to become a town hall.
So I'm going to keep us to the field committee report.
You can do that. That's
Thank
fine. But hopefully we can sell something.
And I know the Trails Committee was Matthew. He is not here. Library is also Matthew. He is not here. And
Yes. We met, and there were three interesting things to me. And the first one is that they're still debating whether reserves and National Guard would fall under the military compact. And there's even debate within the National Guard and the reserves as to whether they want to be included in it. So it's really very convoluted. And the second interesting thing to me was that the compact guarantees that all of your credits will be accepted as you move to schools. And it also addresses extracurricular activities. But towns have ways of obviating what their duty is. And I don't remember the town, and I'm glad, but there was a town somewhere in the country that had a young man who came in and wanted to play baseball. And the baseball team was very selective, I suppose, and very inbred, I would think. And they found a way of having him disqualified because they sent out a message in a communication form that he would never have received. So then when he went to practice, they said, well, you didn't respond to the message that we sent, and they disallowed him from from participating. I don't understand how
And
anybody.
then they went out and asked the middle school kids, because they needed people on
That's
the
right.
team, to come on the team, and this is a military child who's probably come late for the tryout part, but under the compact, it says that they need to have access. And
They
so
don't
they
have-
didn't give him access, but then they opened the doors for the middle schoolers because they need more players instead of asking this high school kid.
It's beyond my
Just
ken.
crazy.
I know that when I was principal at Fitch Middle, we had a young man come in and I said to the coach, he has to try out. And the coach was reluctant. And Kathy Wilson was there and she said, she's the principal, you have to do what she says. But I said, he doesn't have to make the team. He just has to be able to try out. And he did, and he made the team. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and I have got my voice back to a degree, is the impact of impact aid and the necessity for everyone, whether you are eligible for it or not, to sign that and send that form back. And what's interesting to me is that Captain Curtin, who's the head of the base, said that for years he didn't do it because he didn't realize that it was the numbers. He thought, well, I don't qualify this, so for this, so I don't have to sign. He does sign now. Now, I'm not in the military, but I think I know that if the captain says you should fill it out, you should fill it out.
And Miranda's gonna help us get that word out too. So that military families or people who are working on submarines, I mean, really are on the reservation. There are so many ways that we can get the impact aid. So we want everybody to fill out those forms, and that is coming out the end of this week. So we'll be getting that message out as well. Lots of things to do.
All right, I'm going to be moving us on to the consent agenda, which is where all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion with points of clarification allowed. I'll take a motion for acceptance of the consent agenda. I have William, you're either giving me a motion or like a Boy Scout. I'm not quite sure what that is. I got second from Dean. Is there any question or discussion?
Other than highlighting very nice people who made specific donations.
I will be doing that at the end.
I'm sure.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried. The Board of Ed would like to thank the United Cerebral Palsy of Eastern Connecticut had donated 3 Yogi Bo positioning bean bags for use for the students in the district's self-contained special education programs. The products are a Yogi Roll, a Yogi Bo Midi, and a Yogi Bo Huggy Bo. United Way of Southeastern Connecticut, those are just fun
They are
words to
so
say.
cute too. You can really hug them.
I just really love saying those words. United Way of Southeastern Connecticut has donated student backpacks and assorted school supplies to the district. The Coventry West Greenwich Elks number 2285 has donated 25 backpacks to Thames River Magnet School, each containing school supplies. Mary and Frank Gargano has donated $50 to the Groton Public School Mentoring Program. Deborah and Brian Baldwin have donated $25 to the Groton Public Schools Mentoring Program. Roseanne Kautowski has donated $60 to the Groton Public Schools Mentoring Program. And Thomas and Joyce Weber has donated $25 to the Groton Public Schools Mentoring Program. Tangier Outlets has donated $500 to be used to fund phonics resources at Thames River Magnet School, and Tangier Outlet has donated $1,000 to be used to fund Academy Classroom at Thames River Magnet Schools. For those donations, we would like to say thank you for that. There is no old business. We are going to be moving on to new business. Dean, would you please read the motion for number 1, please?
Certainly, move to approve policy P6145.1, eligibility to participate in interscholastic athletics as a first reading.
Thank you. Can I have a second to that, please? I got I got William saying second. Discussion, please, between Andrea and Susan.
I think I've already explained how diligently the high school worked to make this not only strongly educational and athletic at the same time. You should say, Susan. Yes. You want to add to that?
Well,
'Cause
I
think
would say
already
that
said
we
it.
follow the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. That's specifically for the high school, right, Ted? And they have certain requirements, but in this case, the Fitch High School is really even up in the ante a little bit, but providing support at the same time. So the expectation is that a child has 8 consecutive semesters or 4 years that they are able to play. So, and that's for everybody. So you can't really go over that 4 years. And we set the criteria for this, but the other thing that we are doing is that a child has to be passing at least 5 of their classes. But if the high school is looking every week, every other week at all their athletes, but actually they're looking at even more than that, their students, to see if anybody is at risk failing or getting a D at any given point, so that we can kind of come in and make sure that those CTL periods, which are 25 minutes, and then there's a couple extended ones where we're not waiting for the kids to ask the teacher for help. We're actually having the teacher reach out to the student and offer support during the day. There's also the Falcon Academy. So if they failed one class, and it could have just been a test that they failed, then they need to come to the Falcon Academy for tutoring after school as well. And then, you know, we really try to get them right back into playing and practicing, but they are giving support.
Well, I wanted to emphasize that we appreciate that. They need really, if they're on the team, they need to be in practice. Right. And we appreciate that. And that's where the tutoring within the school day comes in. And there's more of an emphasis on that. And if you are failing, then you do have to go once a week. If you fail 2 courses, then you have to go twice a week.
And sometimes even more, that they can actually participate even more if they need to. But I think that we're saying we want high standards for our athletes and all of our students, but we're also going to give them measured support, so that we're not going to wait until the quarter or the semester to see that a child's failing. We're really monitoring, and I know that I have to do a shout out for Mark Romano, because he's really tackling a lot of this, and I think it's eye-opening, but I think we're trying to catch them before they fall. So,
Any questions from the board? Dean?
And there's so many things. There's how we'd like it to go, and there's how it could go. Hopefully it goes as we like it to go. Is there going to be any sort of monitoring for this to see? Because what we're really doing is we're giving people a break. We're saying, look, you know, we'd like you to participate in sports. We don't want it to, so we're going to provide you with support, et cetera. Do we have any way of sort of measuring how this works? So we're going to look at it again in 4 years, or, you know.
I don't think we're going to wait till then. We're monitoring it weekly,
Okay.
bi-weekly. The data team's probably going to look at grades and, you know, and other things too, for our high school students, like we always do. So I think, you know, as soon as we can roll this out, you know, it's a new set of regs and we've adjusted the policy. So I know we want to get it into play, although I have to say, commend the high school again, they're already practicing some of these regulations. They're not waiting for this policy. They're already taking care of the supporting the kids.
Because the basic concern is not, you know, how do we punish kids for not doing well, so we'll keep them off the team. The basic concern is they can't handle their academics. Apparently they can't handle their academics. Having them play a sport as well is just imposing a burden they're not going to be able to overcome. That's how it looks. So we're going to try to address that. So I just want to make sure there's a way we can sort of revisit. Are we in fact, you know, helping kids and making sure that they can both handle their academics and do the sports, and we're not.
Well, I think this is probably something you'll see on the high school improvement plan, that they are really making a concerted effort through their SRBI process during the day and then even after school to make sure that our kids are faring better, all of our kids, and that we're not waiting until they fail. You know, we're really trying to intervene before. It doesn't mean that a child won't fail. that happens sometimes, but at least we are trying to provide services so that we're offering them the best possible support.
Yeah, the old Athenian standard was a sound mind and a sound body, so I don't want to hit athletics, but if in any particular case, it looks like a student could be doing better, but they're also tied down with, so even with support, I don't know if you can ever see that, but it might be apparent with some kids that they're stretched too thinly.
Yeah.
The kids stretched too thinly, and really, we should prioritize the academics and, skip the rest of it, but I just want to make sure.
But
that,
sometimes whether it's the band, the music department,
Yeah.
whether it's a play or whether it's sports.
All their
sometimes
extracurricular
those
stuff,
are the things that actually engage kids, and so it sometimes helps the academics.
So are there any other questions while we're still in the first reading? Because in October, it will come back for the second reading. So my guess is that people have questions, it can come back to policy before October
I think
meeting.
we're meeting on the 4th, I believe.
You know, they were working on a date.
Okay. Thank you. William, would you be willing to read the motion for number 2?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking for a motion to approve policy 7551, naming a facility as a first reading.
Can I have a second to that, please?
Rita Volkman, I'll second it.
Thank you, Rita. Andrea?
Yes. Well, we really just cleaned up the policy language that was there. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Susan, can you pinch hit with this,
Yes.
please? Or someone from policy?
It's probably the shortest, smallest, one paragraph policy we have in the whole book. And we redlined some of the language and added to it, but it's really the prerogative of the Board of Education to establish the need and appropriateness for naming any school building or portion thereof, including indoor and outdoor facilities. And so it talks about in the I think there's regulation that's there. The regulation states how that is to be done. So they've broken that out. So in the first part, that if we're the procedure for selecting a name for a school building shall be as follows. We establish a committee. We try to get representation from around town and on the board, and even student representation like we've done for Groton Middle School, Thames River and Mystic River. And then we bring the names to the board for their final decision. With the case of naming portions of the building, the request is made to the Board of Ed to name a portion of this school facility, which we have had done just recently. And the board forms an ad hoc committee. And they, review what the recommendation is and then move it forward to the whole board. Did I do that?
Can I ask, so on the regulations, number 1, that you changed it from the superintendent to the superintendent from the board? Was there a reasoning behind that?
I think we believe that the superintendent would oversee the entire, the process.
Okay.
And then because it comes to us for a final approval, that this is the way we should go.
No, that's great.
And I think that's the way the practice had been.
No,
Probably,
the practice is the board.
Well, the past 3 times, the superintendent pulled the committee together.
Well, yeah.
Did the back end work before bringing it to the board.
You do pull it together, but to me, it should say the board. But that's, usually that's a chairperson is the one that calls these together, these ad hoc committees for the naming of the schools.
Well, this isn't an ad hoc committee. This is a school naming committee.
It
has
is
to
a
have
name.
all those different folks involved.
Right.
So it's really probably the superintendent's administrative assistant who pulls it all together, to be very honest with you.
That's right. Yeah.
Dean?
Yeah, so it could start with somebody or a group of people thinking, I think we ought to name a building or part of a building as follows. Okay, and then you would put together, I mean, it's an ad hoc committee in the sense that it's not a standing
Well,
committee.
that's true. It's
Yeah.
a part-time.
Okay, so you would put together a committee for the purpose of, I guess, exploring that or reviewing that or what have you. But I skip down to number 3. No matter what happens from the committee that you set up, the board shall then make a final selection. You'd have to twist that little bit to give the board the opportunity to say, thank you, but no, thank you, we're not going to rename the building.
I mean, the only thing you could say is the superintendent, under the direction of the board, will do the legwork, putting it together, but then bringing it back to the
Yeah.
board.
See, my issue is more than just ministerial. It looks like you put together the committee. It's not a board superintendent thing. You put together the committee, but then whatever the work of the committee is, ultimately comes to the board. Of course, the board has to make a decision. The board shall then make a final selection
Right.
of the name from the submission. Can the board then say, we would rather not rename the building? Thank you for your work, but we're not going to do that.
Or they might not like the names. That's happened,
Can
and
we
we've
do
gone
that?
back to the drawing board and then brought it back again, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
seriously.
board definitely has the final decision.
But are we allowed to? I know this is not the change portion. Just want to make sure we actually have that freedom. If we think something is barreling at us, we'd rather not have anything. Somebody's very enthusiastic about something, but we're not. We have our reasons for it. Can we, when it says shall then make, are we locked into actually, going with the recommendation?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because just recently we didn't. We actually had to go back. We actually ended up agreeing back to that, but no.
Yeah,
I'm
going
gonna,
back and forth.
Rita, I see your hand is up, but I'm gonna recognize Andrea first.
One of the things that I just heard was that this is not a standing committee, but this is a standing committee. It may not meet regularly, but the ad hoc is the leading up the committee that looks at portions of the building, like the library or the gym. But my understanding is that this is a standing committee.
Well, it's not a standing committee in the sense of like curriculum and policy and finance and facilities. That is a standing committee. Those are standing committee. So this is a committee that is formed, has a life, has a beginning, middle, and end. So it's not standing if it's a.
I thought that was the ad hoc.
The ad hoc is just internal board members.
Right.
So a committee
I see.
is for outside community
I see.
members
I
to
see
be
what
part
you're
of that. I guess for me, I would be comfortable under the leadership of the board, the superintendent shall appoint a school naming committee. Feels like that would be better.
That's fine.
I still disagree. And if you look at the procedures down below, 1, 2, and 3, it all mentions the board. And the board always was, the board has a secretary part-time, and the secretary of the board was the one who got the committee together, at least in the past, it was that way. So I don't know, I'm just, maybe under the direction of the board, you can
That's-
charge the
That was just being announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, you. I
Under the
know, I
direction of the
heard-
board.
Yes, I heard you say that, but I just, because if you look at the procedures, it's all about the board.
Yeah, and I think that we did that because it has to come to the board, and we wanted to keep a board member off of it because we wanted it to come just to us.
No,
As
a board member should definitely be part of this committee.
Absolutely.
But we had the committee disagreed with that. Don't you remember? I watched it today.
What committee?
The policy committee who was relooking at this.
Well, but then maybe the policy committee didn't want to have, but I've been on many school naming committees, and in the past, I know Beverly has also, and you should have board representation.
That was a strong discussion. And then in the end, we decided not to vote. Well, let's send this back and let us reconsider.
Well,
Thank
I would like to, we've got to move this forward because we
That's
have,
true, too.
we have a kind of timeline. This is a regulation. It's really not for the board to vote on.
That's
It's
true.
how we lay it out, but I'm happy to change the wording. Under the direction of the board, the superintendent shall appoint a school, naming committee. I mean, that's really been the practice.
Well, it has to come back for final vote anyways.
Yeah.
So you guys can talk about it
Yeah,
at your
we'll
next.
fix it.
Talk about it and maybe reword it because the board members should definitely be part of the committee. I don't know why you'd leave them out.
I think it says a community member, so a community member could be a board member.
Right.
And Rita, I think we left it out because the board has the final decision. So we
Right.
didn't feel a board member should be part of the committee because they ultimately have the final decision.
But then they're not part of the suggestions.
Well, you could always make a suggestion. You could give a committee member the suggestion.
Yeah, I still would
I
like
see your point too, though, Rita. I see your point.
I see both.
Yeah.
So can you bring that back? And
Especially
and
because
think about
it's a
that?
board, I mean, it's a board naming, I mean, it's part of the board. The schools, I mean, that's what we do, and I just think it's strange not to have a board member on the committee. Or
Any
two.
board committee.
We had a hot discussion about that, so it wasn't just off the top of our heads, but well, I think we should, because I know we're on a timeline, but
Let's move it to a second and we'll
We have to.
reword that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it has to go to a second,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's not an option. Any further conversation about that?
Nope.
No, just
Going back
again,
to-
it was because the board makes the final decision. That's why, again, that's why we didn't put a board member on the committee. We figured, let the committee do what they want to do and then bring the names forward to the board without a board member influencing the committee. Not that a
Okay.
board member would do it, but
Yeah, but also, I mean, I don't think a board would not take the suggestion of a committee that had had student representation, community right, hopefully teachers and board members. Then you bring it up to the whole board. That's just how I look at it. Thank you.
All right, so if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the first reading to approve the policy P7551, naming a facility as a first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
I'm opposed, Kim.
Opposed to what?
The first reading.
Rita, are you opposed to the policy or the regulation?
To what we're voting, I'm not opposed to the policy, I'm opposed to the wording.
Of the policy or the regulation on the back?
Because all we're voting on is the policy, not the regulation.
No, the policy, number one is the policy. I'm not talking about the regulations.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, no, oh, yes, yes, you are.
Well, just that.
Okay. So you're opposed, abstain?
I just think it's written wrong. I mean, even if you look at on that, it says guidelines are established by the board. I just.
Okay, so we're voting on the policy, not on the regulation for first reading. I think what would be helpful is to make sure that Andrea or Beverly and the third person on your policy committee is
Matthew.
Matthew. Thank you. Is if you can get to make sure that they hear that before October 4th, when we talk about the regulation. But we have moved into voting, so we're not in discussion anymore. I'm on the vote. So I believe that motion has passed. Is that correct, Joan?
I've abstained.
I got your
Nothing else.
abstention.
Okay, is it Dean and Rita abstaining?
Yes.
No, Rita is,
I'll abstain.
They'll
okay,
abstain,
so Rita
okay.
and Dean have abstained. And the rest have moved forward, yes.
And it passed.
Okay, thank you.
Well, quick question, is there a minimum, I don't remember, is there a sort of a minimum number of votes? In other words, if we have too many abstentions, even if everybody else votes yes, does it still pass? Do we have a minimum, sort of a floor? I
I
don't
don't know.
remember.
I can't remember.
Does something have to pass with a minimum number of votes?
Yeah,
You know?
we have that, a policy on that.
Total down to whoever votes.
The rest are
So
yes.
if we need, if there's 7 votes and we need 5 to pass, but we have, out of that 7, we have 2 abstain, and we only have 5, and so now we need 3 to pass.
And we have,
I mean, you see these rules, the minimum requirement rules, because you could have a situation where 8 out of 9 people abstain and 1 person votes, yay or nay. Is that considered representative then of the body? Strictly speaking, yes, but you often see rules that say, well, no matter what.
I
situation,
don't
you must have
know if we
at
have
least,
that
you know.
detail in our policies
That's not
and,
what we're doing here.
right. But that would be a good question to research.
Because I think the town council has a rule like that.
I
What happens,
don't
you gotta
think-
have at least, so that a minority doesn't make something happen.
I get that. I
Yeah.
don't think that that's in the board.
Okay.
All right, so we are going to move on. Rita, would you be willing to read the motion for number 3, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
To approve policy P 6141.51, enrollment in advanced courses or programs as a first reading.
So Andrea, Susan, Beverly,
The one thing I do want to say is that we worked diligently to make sure that all kids. who want to
Excuse
take-
me, Andrea.
Yes.
Nobody seconded that.
oh my goodness, that's my fault. Can I have a second to that policy, please? Can someone just give me a second?
Second,
Thank you, Beverly. All right, Andrea.
Okay, so we worked diligently to make sure that the upper level courses were not exclusive and were open to everyone. So that the language in here really talks about if a student wants to take a course, no matter what background that student has in terms of grades and that sort of thing, that they should be able to be considered for that course. I know that one of the committee members recalled a situation where he wanted to take an AP course, and this is a board member, and he was disallowed, but his parents insisted that he take the examination, and he passed, and he said how much better he would have done, how much more enriched he would have been had he been able to take the course, the AP course itself, instead of just the exam. So the purpose of looking at this is to open the doors to higher level courses to everyone. So if we want to continue.
Well, and I think it goes along with the work that we're doing at the high school, trying to increase enrollment in those higher level courses. But again, we have support systems in place, like we described for the athletics, where we're really monitoring student progress in those classes and providing, we have a task class that sometimes aligns with, I know, IB and sometimes AP, or we have the CTLs that they can meet with their teacher during the day, and then we have after school Falcon Academy. So I would say we've got some pieces in place to support our kids with this, but sometimes the desire to take a course and the engagement in a particular topic that kids are interested in can wipe out all the past that, that they might have had in let's say a science, because they are so engaged in this new area that they want to learn about. So we really wanted to be able to, really open opportunity. And there's a guiding principle within this, which is part of this law that is having us do this, is that we're aware of the diversity and the underrepresentation in advanced level courses. So we really have to make sure that all of our courses are diversified the way our community is.
Rita?
Yeah, two points. The first one is that Fitch has had a policy of you do not need, if you want to take an advanced placement course, This has been in place for 28 years at Fitch. Before that, you had to be recommended by a teacher, and that is no longer the case. Any student could take any course at Fitch High School, an advanced course. But my question is, what are dual enrollment and dual credit courses? I'm just not familiar with those terms.
Yes, please.
Yes.
We're gonna invite,
Principal Kelleher here.
we're inviting the principal here to answer that question.
Oh, great, thank you.
So dual enrollment and dual credit are oftentimes kind of interchangeable, but it's any course where a student can receive credit in multiple ways. So receiving a high school credit and also a college credit, or receiving a high school credit but also having an opportunity to be part of a program. So examples of courses like that are AP courses. Our nursing program is a dual credit course because they can get certification. Our dual enrollment course because they can get certification. Other areas, ECE, there's a lot of those types of courses in high school.
We're even cross-referencing, looking at the IB diploma, but possibly being able to get ECE credit where it might work out that you can also marry it with UConn credit, AP, where it's not just a 3, 4, 5, but they might be able to get UConn credit as well. So really giving kids multiple opportunities to have that readiness for college.
Thank you.
And credit going into it, which helps the parents because we know what the price of college is these days.
Susan, what does ECE stand for again?
Early college experience. It's a program with UConn for UConn credit.
Is it accepted at all the public universities in Connecticut or just UConn?
It's a UConn credit, but you can transfer to almost any public
Okay.
university in
All right.
Connecticut. Almost a lot of different universities.
Any other question about Dean?
I like the idea of exposing kids who may have basically talked themselves out. It may have started in elementary school, or they've done it, or somebody older than them has told them, don't go in here, or think twice about going down that path. I think we've all had experiences like this ourselves. People are trying to be very helpful. I like the idea of basically having kids think again. Don't count yourself out. If you think you might be interested or capable of handling an AP course, then do that. I also have to be mindful of the kids that are in the AP courses who would be considered completely capable or pretty capable of handling the material that's being thrown at them for preparation for the AP exam that comes in May. Now, we want to make sure that the support that we provide doesn't detract from that very tight schedule in the AP class. In other words, the AP class cannot have a remedial component. I don't think should have a remedial component. Now, if the entire class, for example, in AP calculus just never had trigonometry, the teacher's got to basically step out of the AP curriculum and teach them trigonometry because they all never learned it for some reason in pre-calc. That sort of phenomenon. But other than that, the kids that are put in these AP courses are going to have to, within the AP course, handle the material. How we support them outside the AP course, because otherwise, in other words, if you slow the AP course down, which you can't, you slow the AP course down so that other kids can catch up. That works in a non-AP situation, but they're all facing the AP exam in May. The kids who were in there are like, well, I can do this. I'm shooting for that. That's where I'm going. I don't think they want to be held up by.
So we have a presentation we're going to bring to the board
Okay.
on the support we're giving AP teachers and AP students. It's called the National Math Science Institute. I've written about it in board notes, but it's supported by Department of Defense. Big amounts of money to do this, not on us, on DODEA, on Department of Defense. And we've tripled our numbers of teachers being involved in the summer program this year. They get a stipend from DOD. They work hard in this coursework. They network with people across the country and other military communities to make AP the best it can be. So some of the things we're learning in AP is not it's kind of slow and steady wins the race, says the tortoise to the hare, and going in depth in a lot of these topics and looking at themes. So, and the kids also have just-in-time tutoring at any time with this organization. So there's some support systems that we're giving our teachers and our students at the same time through this, this NIMSY group. And I just want to bring it to the board to explain it even further, but that's a piece of this support too that we're going to be giving.
And that was never, that was never our intention, that what AP courses or any other course would be watered down ever, that the teacher would have to step out and, provide instruction.
I mean, it has happened.
But that's not our
But
intention.
it has happened where kids who should know certain things that wind up, the
Absolutely.
calc teacher may wind up in a situation where got to stop what they're doing and basically do a whole class on something that they should have learned already.
Probably happens in every teacher's class. I
Yeah.
think it happened to me.
Yeah.
Every year I taught multiple times during the year. Yeah.
It's just you already have a short,
Yeah,
we've
right,
got-
right.
Some schools start, we're crippled because we don't start school until maybe the beginning of September. But there are other districts around the country that start a lot earlier than we do, and they're all happy for May. Whereas we see it, we have a shorter calendar by a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Jean.
Yeah, sorry for taking all the time.
No, you-
Well, Susan, don't they have to have the prerequisites also? Like they can't go into calculus unless they have pre-cal, right?
Especially with mathematics, definitely has, a kind of course order. Even some of the sciences, that there are certain prerequisites. So we took that into consideration.
I share Dean's concern because years ago, that was a big problem that the teachers were dummying, we used to say dummying down the course for kids that weren't ready. So I do share some of Dean's concern, but it's going to be up to the student too, to make sure that they get the help they need when they see that they need help.
Right.
And they have to, and Beverly, to your point, they are having to follow through on some prerequisites to get into these higher level classes. So that means that the work needs to be done with the district earlier on to identify kids to make sure that they have
And we
that.
have to communicate better too, to everybody.
So is there any further discussion on this policy?
I have a follow-up to this very topic on the prerequisites.
Is it okay?
Yeah, on the regulation on the backside, toward the bottom, board seeks an equitable course enrollment policy that limits prerequisites and entrance requirements to those that are directly related to a student's potential for success. How is that going to be measured? Does that mean that a student we may say, you want to take the AP course, but maybe you don't have the prerequisite, well, go take it anyway, kind of thing. I don't know how to read that. In other words, whereas it used to be, have you taken the prerequisites? Now we're saying, well, maybe, enrollment not exclusively based on students' prior academic performance. Maybe you don't need all the prerequisites. We're limiting the prerequisites. In order to give people more chances to get in, which is fine.
Even with the teacher recommendation, some teachers may recommend, one teacher may recommend a child for a certain, class and another may not. So that isn't the be all and end all, is the teacher recommendation.
So are you saying that the regulation just needs a little bit tighter or more clear about what that means?
Yeah, are we or are we not going to have
We're not saying that they're not having prerequisites. We're saying we're limiting.
Right.
The number of.
Yeah, because sometimes this has been done in other areas too. We're basically killing people with kindness. A lot of people have been sent over the many, many years to college and we don't track whether they fail out at some point in their freshman or sophomore year. We don't track whether they finish college on time, but we were happy that we got them into college. Want to make sure we don't duplicate that kind of a process here. Hooray, we got people into AP courses, but how are they doing?
Good point. That's a really good
part
point.
of the plan,
Right.
to make sure that.
That's a good point. And I guess my question is, which we need to stick to this policy, but to the point is, how do we track that? And how do we gather that data so that we know that when we are having kids go into higher level classes, that they're able to, that they're successful? Rita.
I agree with Dean about that one, the third from the bottom. The board seeks an equitable course enrollment policy that limits prerequisites. Well, I don't think that should be in there. I mean, why do you want to limit prerequisites? what we talked about in terms of opening up AP and IB is that you need to have prerequisites, like Beverly said, you can't take calculus without taking the, the courses before it. But I think it was more for students, let's say, that wanted to take US history, AP US history, as opposed to the honors. I'm not even sure we have AP anymore, but I also don't feel that that sentence is worded correctly.
So would
We
the
want to
motion-
have, I mean, we have enough in here saying about equity and access to rigorous courses for all our students. But to me, we shouldn't have, there shouldn't be limits on prerequisites and entrance requirements. I don't know why that sentence is there.
So
We
can
can take
go-
a look at that at the committee.
Yeah,
I agree.
because we're not voting on regulations, we are voting on the policy.
Right, I know.
Okay. Any further question about the policy? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the policy P 6141-51, which is the enrollment in advanced courses or programs as a first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? And Dean has abstained. That motion has carried. We are now moving on to number 4. Jay, would you please be willing to read number 4?
Sure. I move to approve the proposed meal price increase for elementary schools of $2 for breakfast and $3.25 for lunch, and for secondary schools of $2.25 for breakfast and $3.75 for lunch.
Can I have a second to that? Andrea has seconded it. Any discussion? Jay?
I said this at the last meeting. I think there's broad consensus on this. Nobody wants to raise these prices. We are still keeping the cost at 80% of the recommended level. And Ken, feel free to correct me at any point. Recommended by the federal government. Unfortunately, due to the inflation that we've now determined is not as transitory as we were told, costs are increasing. This program does not make a profit. Any excess at the end of the year, if we should be lucky enough, is actually reinvested back into equipment. However, most years, I think we have into the loss. If we don't raise these prices now, then it go into an even larger. Now, on the other side, several of our schools have qualified for free meals. And our intent, as the superintendent mentioned earlier, is to get enough questionnaires back to possibly get more schools to qualify for that. And so in the meantime, we have to be fiscally prudent and keep up, with at least a percentage of what the federal government says the guidelines are.
Thank you, Jay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor to approve the motion to approve the proposed meal price increase for elementary schools of $2 for breakfast and $3.25 for lunch, and for secondary schools for $2.25 for breakfast and $3.75 for lunch. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Opposed, Beverly.
Okay, thank you, Beverly. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to go so
And I'm
quickly.
abstaining.
And Beverly is abstaining.
No, Rita's abstaining, Beverly
Yeah.
voted.
As long as Joan has it straightened out.
And I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
I'm
because
opposing.
Yeah.
Joan is a much better woman than
I
me.
got it.
Yeah, see, I told you. All right, but the motion has carried. Thank you.
I'd like to read the next one.
Okay,
All right. I never read out loud,
that's right.
but this is so close to my heart. I want to do it.
Okay.
Move move to recognize October 2nd, 2022 as National Custodian Day, and to direct the superintendent of schools to send a letter of appreciation to the custodial staff.
Can I have a second to that?
I'll second it, Rita.
Thank you, Rita. Any discussion?
I just want to say that when I was a principal, the custodial staff saved my little soul so many times. I can't tell you how hard the custodial staff works and how dedicated they are to their jobs. So, yes. So for you, anything, even reading out loud.
That's right. That is pretty big for you to read a motion. So if there's hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, please say aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? That motion has carried. Beverly, can I ask to start with you about letters or communications?
I just had a communication, and I talked to Susan about this earlier in the month. It had to do with the buses not picking up students that were not on their list. Bus drivers were not able to pick up students that were not on their list, and they were concerned because some of the kids were young, and they would have to say, "Nope, you can't get on my bus. You have to go home." And so I talked to Susan about it, and I think we got it all straightened out, right, Susan?
Right, I talked to the bus transportation group here, and Sam is here nodding his head too, that, you know, we really, in the very beginning, there were some moves that were made and some changes that were made, and whether the families didn't pick up on the new bus stop, but they did work it out individually with each one.
And we just have to make sure moving forward next year that that doesn't happen, because some of the kids went home. We don't know if their parents were home or not. I mean, they could have been in 3rd grade and was saying to them, "Nope, you can't get on the bus. You're not on my list." And we don't know who's home for them, you know, so we have to be careful next year that that definitely does not happen.
Right. Agreed.
Rita, do you have any correspondence?
Yes, I attended the Groton Education Foundation's fundraiser on Saturday night. It was an art auction. Some of the our past teachers had made quilts. It was just a lovely affair, and hopefully they made quite a bit of money so that they give grants out to our staff that request them for certain projects. And I also really enjoyed the article in the Day last week about Northeast Academy's the Art Magnet School, the health and wellness fair that they had. Thought it was just a great article, and the pictures too. That's all.
Thank you, Rita. Jay?
I just want to say that, you know, I first became aware of Lee White years ago when she was reviewing restaurants for the Day, and she's continued to write a column ever since. It was a pleasure working with her on the board. She was very passionate about students and the schools. I learned that she wasn't feeling well about a month ago, but she never wanted to discuss it, so I never pressed the issue. And actually, when I saw her last week, she still didn't want to discuss it. She still wanted to know how opening day went at schools, how the new schools were doing, and my son was doing in college. And that was Lee White. She had a passion for education. She had a passion for public service, and it was never about her. So as we remember Lee White tonight. The other thing I want to mention is with regard to the school lunch program, I'd be very interested that we do this from that Rita suggested, because once again, none of us want to raise, and we hope that there'll be, you know, in a continuation of the program where no one is paying. That would be ultimately the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Dean?
Well, God rest her soul. I'm gonna leave it there.
Any other communications? Okay, great. William, this is a point of the agenda where if there had been something that has hit your email or communication, that's a time for us to kind of talk about that. Did you have anything? All right, didn't want to leave you out. Andrea,
Well, of course, my communication is going to be about the Martin Luther King dinner. It's on, pardon me, it's on October 20th at the Marriott, Mystic Marriott, and it starts at 5. The tickets are $70 this year. And we have representation scholars from William F. Fitch High School scholars today, from NFA, from New London Science and Tech, from New London High School, from the Marine Science High School, and this year, and from Stonington, and this year for the first time from Rosso and from Three Rivers, Three Rivers as well.
nice.
And that's October 20th.
20th at the Mystic Marriott at 6 o'clock.
Andrea,
Yeah,
should we send that to you? Usually you send out something through Joyce to us. I don't know if I received that this year, but could we send you a check made out to Martin Luther King?
and that the district letter did go out. I thought it went to board members, but it may not have.
It did.
I know I have it on my calendar, so it probably went out, but I just don't remember the price. So it was
$70.
I'm gonna send the reminder to you all. I'll have Joyce send that out.
But can I send it to Andrea? Is my question.
The money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she says yes.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. I had lots of memories about Lee. She and I went down to Washington DC to that conference, and the woman walked all the way around Washington DC with those plastic shoes of hers, and it was amazing. But she was a fierce advocate for all things about kids, and her presence is missed. I just wanted to let you know that as I mentioned to you guys, I have not heard back from anyone in the town regarding us meeting with them at the field. I will pursue that, but that also to know if we could get, even if it's by video, the town council is going to be talking about the grant that we just received. And my understanding it's first on the docket, and the meeting starts at 6:30. So if we could, I'm working until 7. So if we could just get a few board members to either attend through hybrid or to be in person, that would be great. Tomorrow at 6:30
I'll be there in person, and I think Shannon's gonna join me.
So Shannon's going to be there to chat about the grant, and that she wrote it. So Susan, but if we could just, even if it's hybrid, that would be swell. Is there the calendar events? There's a lot of things that got canceled, but the highlight is that we have secured Mary Broderick and the Mystic Marriott for our retreat. And if there are details that you guys need to have, we will share that with you.
She's supposed to get back to me, and they're gonna have like soup, salad, dessert, and a nice meal, like probably a steak offering, a chicken, and maybe a seafood or a pasta. So I'll get that menu out, you all can select. So I thought it would be a nice place to kind of get away for all of us. I think you deserve it.
And then 3 days later, we'll be back for the MLK.
Yeah.
So, but is there agenda topics that we want to make sure that we get covered?
Or send them to you.
And they can send them to me.
No, I just, reading that policy about making sure that there is an evaluation about these courses, I think that will be really very important and to keep track of somehow, maybe on your sheet, that we have.
Okay, not a bad idea. All right. Hearing no other agenda items, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Jay has seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Oppose, abstain. That motion is carried. Good night, guys.
Nice job. This is the big one.